Little turn one protected for you. That's always nice. Little turn one protected. Alright, TonyScapone here, and we're back with some Black Saga Storm. This is the first video since having played in Baltimore at the SCG event. Hit top 4 in that event, so obviously had a very successful event, and in front of you is the list that I was running there, so I'm just going to discuss a couple of points of contention, because we are still not 100% fine-tuned with this deck. We are very close, and there are kind of a few spots that whether we're not sure of or just kind of things go in flux, whether it be a matter of preference or meta call or that sort of thing. So, and sometimes a deck will wind up in that spot where everything is settled and then it is purely a matter of preference or meta call. But I don't think we can say that for sure. We're still trying to figure out a few things. So, a couple notable things that I brought to Baltimore were a 15th land that we don't typically run, but I felt as though there'd be enough Delver that I just wanted an additional land. And the Mycosynth Gardens is very flexible and can be fairly modal, since it can obviously tap for a land, it can be a black source, it can copy Lion's Eye Diamond, and... Ooh, let me turn the sound off. And it can copy Bauble for what is a very slow trip, we'll call like doubly slow trip, but it can cycle your land in kind of stale circumstances, so it's not nothing. In addition to that, I was opting for Shadow Spear. So Shadow Spear is something that we played with for a while, and then we had come off of basically just trying to find if there's anything else that is better against tempo. Not to say the card is bad, but the tempo matchup, namely the Delver matchup, basically revolves around Meltdown. So, I mean, often enough we're able to discard and kill them quickly, but not every hand is, made to do that, and we have to keep certainly a wide range of hands against Delver, and certainly not excluding hands that rely upon Urza Saga, and putting a lot of artifacts on board and opening ourselves up to Meltdown. Of course, our way to deal with that is discard, but that is an imperfect solution, as they can either top deck Meltdown or float it on the top of their deck. So we do have ways to mitigate that issue, being able to discard a lot. If you're able to double discard on turn 1, then they can't just force a will your thing and then still have Meltdown and then brainstorm it away. Or you can see it on top, so you can plan accordingly. There are times where we don't have to play into it, but again, the game really revolves around Meltdown, and so it's tough. We've been trying a lot of things. We tried Ave instead of Shadow Sphere, which is, as you might imagine, just a bit too clunky, and obviously it's not good with ad nauseum. Shadow Sphere has proven to be better than that. We used to bring a Needle with Shadow Spear, but it's awkward because it's only a 1-of, so if it's not in your opener, it's not the greatest, right? If you get it off a Saga, odds are if you've brought a Saga to Chapter 3, you're probably not all that weak to Wasteland anyways, and you probably don't want Needle at that point, right? So that has more recently left us with, I mean, for Baltimore, it was kind of, I don't want to say unsolved, because like I said, it's a good plan. Like Shadow Spear is very good if they don't have the Meltdown, or if they don't have the Meltdown on time, or if we have a lot of Sagas, we can stagger them. Sometimes we can just play around Meltdown. It's a game of Magic. The match feels a lot like a Delver Mirror in that it's very close, it's skill testing. If either player has an above average hand, they're probably going to win. Play draw has a large effect. That sort of thing. All the kind of circumstances you would see in a mirror match. It feels very close. And so what we're looking for is something that really tips the scales preferably something in the sideboard that we can just add, so that for such a common matchup that we can just gain some huge points. Obviously, and preferably something that can also bleed over into points for other matchups as well, as you want to do with sideboard cards. So we've begun some testing of some kind of sidestep solutions, right? Like Nettle Cyst. Here, I'll pull up. If you don't know Nettle Cyst. So Nettle Cyst is a 3-mana artifact, living weapon, that is as big as the amount of artifacts and enchantments you have, and you can re-equip for 2. So this is a fairly powerful card. It's pretty good against Delver. It dodges Meltdown for the most part, but it has obvious problems. It costs 3, so it's a bit tougher to cast, especially through Wastelanded Days, and it costs 3, so it hurts from ad nauseum. So yet another fairly effective but imperfect plan. We also tried Patchwork, and though I haven't given this probably enough reps to test sufficiently, it's very similar in that it's an evasive, nice little sidestep kind of beatdown plan, but hurts less from ad nauseum, easier to cast. The ward is nice, but it is a lot more likely to get swept up by Meltdown, and it does still not help us in terms of our ad nauseum, and it's a little bit awkward because you gotta run 4, at least 3, but probably 4, and then the side, what you're replacing gets difficult. I won't dig too deep into it, but it is felt even maybe just too imperfect, I guess is a good way to put it. Again, it's powerful, it's good, it's fine, it's gonna win you a lot of games, it's a fine thing to do, but I don't think it's optimal, and this is a search for what may be optimal. Another option, and people often ask me about this card, and it is and was in just about any list of this nature that I try. It's always one of the first cards, right? Because it makes so much sense. It's protection. They can get through Saga, so they can't even interact with it. It's a body for Cabal Therapy. It's an artifact for Mox Opal. Like it's there's just so much good about it, but at least in my experience, when I was first testing it, it is just too slow. It's just a touch too slow. It's almost always just a touch too slow, a bit too benign, right? So it's also legendary, which is not for nothing, right? So I have considered retesting it. I have, on a number of occasions, tried testing it as a split for Cabal Therapy and Hope of Ghirapur. In the main deck, as it always has, proved to be a bit too slow and awkward. So we could run several copies in the sideboard and then try to overload on it. However, the sideboarding is awkward, and is it really more disruption that we need in the tempo matchup? I mean, it could help. I think it would help, but again, I'm not so sure it's optimal. It also gets swept up by Meltdown. I'm not in love with it. It does have some crossover with some other matchups, so I do like that. It would be nice to have access to it, but I just think there are better options. So that leaves me to what I intend on doing today. And before we get into the sideboard, which is what all this is primarily going to be in regards to, I'm going to mention the small changes that have been largely discussed amongst many of us Black Saga Storm fanatics, we'll say at this point, right? We're all super stoked about this deck, right? New Storm, performing well after much hard work, all exciting things, right? So the 15th land is something that was kind of a from the hip consideration right before the tournament for me, like a week beforehand. Again, just wanted to land. It's fine, but I think ultimately we do want less lands. The fewer lands you have, the better IT is. Just as a Storm deck, you do want to be threatening early on, and if you have too many lands, that's not going to be the case, right? You're just making land drops instead. I think ultimately, with a Turbo Storm deck, you want to play as few lands as you can get away with. Now, of course, this is a unique archetype in that we are trying to jam in Urza Saga, which means we're also trying to jam artifact lands and soul lands, which takes up most of the space. And those are very powerful lands in the entirety of the game. So competition for lands is high. We do need a certain amount of basics mostly so that we can cast Fatal Push. But obviously some resiliency to Wasteland is nice. But so the big thing that we've moved from and to is, so coming back off the Mycosynth Gardens and back onto Chrome Mox number 3. Now, if you've been following from early stages, the first handful of lists, I was running 3 Chrome Mox. I always loved this card in Turbo, Storm decks, especially ones that involve Mox Opal, because it is responsible for so many of our most busted openers. It allows for easy metalcraft and casting of, say, Witchclaw Talisman, which can enable Mox Opal to let us not only cast discard in the same turn that we're casting a Witchclaw, but oftentimes with a Saga that is then active on turn 2. So to play a turn 1 Saga that's active the very next turn with discard and a Witchclaw is just a terrifying prospect. And Chrome Mox is more often than not the thing that enables that. In addition to that, double discard on turn 1, that is often enabled by Chrome Mox, sometimes just by an artifact land and like Bauble and Opal. But more Chrome Mox means we're doing that sort of thing more often. Also, sometimes we just have too many cards, too many tutors, whatever it is, too many discard spells, and really we just want to get Hellbent so that we can cast Infernal Tutor, even if it means simply getting an Urza Saga. And Chrome Mox, again, continues to enable a lot of the things that our hand wants to be doing. We came off of the 3, if I'm being perfectly honest, because enough people complained and brought up enough of the what will always be negatives about running more Chrome Mox. Brought enough of those to my attention frequently enough that it convinced me, okay, fine, I will come off my 3rd Chrome Mox. We were even running 1 at one point. I mean, probably the biggest reason is because we do have a low amount of imprintables. We are running a very short amount of imprintables for a Chrome Mox deck. We certainly cannot afford to run 4. Most decks that run 4 are running the imprintable lands, which this deck would love to run. However, we are, of course, running ad nauseum, and again, we have a very short number of lands to work with. So, I think 4 is out of the question. I think 1 was irresponsible. I think 2 is fine. But I do think the 3rd, and one of the reasons we came back to this is the most recent thing that we have cut, and I think we really have just simply cut, is Cabal Ritual. And I could spend 5 minutes, talking about why Cabal Ritual is reasonable, and I do think it is reasonable. I don't think it's optimal, and however, whenever we cut it, we often went back to it feeling as though we had missed it specifically. I think it's more so just that we missed our density of mana just was reduced slightly too much, right? That ratio was a bit off once we took out Cabal Ritual, not necessarily Cabal Ritual specifically. And adding the third Chrome Mox does bring mana back into the deck. So also worth mentioning, it helps ad nauseum considerably, like very much so. So the third Chrome Mox has been welcomed back with open arms as far as I'm concerned. I've always been a fan of it. We had played without the third for so long that I had almost forgotten that that's where I was with it for a while. So shame on you for convincing me otherwise. Shame on you. No, I'm just playing around. So I'm going to move to what I'm going to be running today. As far as the main deck goes, this is what I have been running. A lot of us have been running. It's similar, except, of course, we removed the Mycosynth Gardens and added the third Chrome Mox. That's really the only change for the main deck. So moving to the sideboard. So we've had much discussion about Leyline of the Void. And no, this is not a scenario in which I am not in favor of Leyline of the Void. Leyline of the Void works very well in this deck. In terms of how it functions in not just the shell, but the entirety of the deck, it is super solid. It is part of what was a well-oiled machine. However, in the event that there is such a low density of dedicated graveyard decks, to me, the decks that it was used for, and pretty much entirely and only, was Reanimator, Oops All Spells, and the Epic Gamble. And the most common of which, out of those three, by far is Reanimator, and of which, made up of one of the more popular decks at SCG Baltimore. I think it was like the third or fourth most played deck, but only 20 copies out of 265. That's still, on the whole, you're only, you're probably still not going to play against it, and it did not do well. I think I heard a quote, I forget where the statistic came from, but ultimately I'm sure it came from Joe Dyer and team, that it was in the low 40s as far as win rate. So that's pretty bad, and I would imagine that those numbers will continue, or maybe people are just too ready for graveyard decks, and then it'll be that ebb and flow of graveyard, kind of like how the Dredge thing used to be. Whatever. I mean, Dredge is another deck that we'd use Leyline, but Dredge is almost non-existent as well. So, but on the whole, dedicated graveyard decks are a very small portion, and I did know this previously, but kept Leyline of the Void for two reasons. One, they were slots in the sideboard that didn't just give minor points to a variety of decks, but rather just made us rarely even lose, right, to a large enough portion of the meta that it was just such a surefire way to destroy a few matchups or just have a huge percentage increase, right? You could make a sideboard consideration that gives you maybe, an estimated 10% point increase across, 7 or 8 matchups, or you can go for what will give you, say, 25-30%, like it does in the Reanimator matchup, right, across a smaller portion. So it's close, but I think it is to the point where there are so few purely dedicated graveyard decks that I am comfortable at least trying other things. Now, I mentioned there were two things that prevented me from doing this, and two things preventing me from taking the whole package out, and the other thing being there's not a line of cards that are just dying to get back into the board, or just, there aren't a handful of cards that we just would love to have that just crush this or that matchup. We don't necessarily know. Basically, we are looking for some sort of package that can give us the same percentage against Reanimator that Leyline does, except against Tempo. And though we have plans that work and that create very competitive Magic games, nothing that just gives us a flat-out, huge increase. Examples other than, of course, Leyline for dedicated graveyard decks would include Empty the Warrants, right? Look at the Epic Gamble, and though that deck has a very solid tempo matchup, it is even worth it to add the full set of Empty the Warrants in that board, because it makes the matchup go from good to just almost unlosable. So we have at least not yet found something to that effect, and there may not be, but we're going to search, and we're going to test, and we're going to poke, and we're going to pry, and we're going to try, and we're going to grind and try to figure out what is best. And I think what might be best now is basically to compile a bunch of the cards. These are all the cards that have come in and out of the board that have been very, very effective in various measures. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Leyline package out. I'm going to put more or less all of these cards in and just see how they feel, because it may even just be that the culmination of all these things may be overall more effective than what wound up being occasional stomping that Leyline and Helm would provide for us, right? So, and we'll go through these. We still do have graveyard hate, right? So we're not just dead in the water against Reanimator. Like, Surgical is a still very powerful tool, and certainly when accompanied by a bunch of discard, and we do also just have the ability to go faster than something like Ad Nauseam Tendrils, just going for the fast kill. So we are not simply a dog to Reanimator, though we lost what was ultimately the banger, sideboard tech. We still have Surgical, and Surgical is a lot more widely applicable. So a couple of things that I'm really interested in with this card is how much it gives us against Doomsday and Cephalid Breakfast. And yes, Surgical's not necessarily great against Doomsday, but we are running 10 discard spells. When you're running 10 discard spells, Surgical Extraction does get that much better. So I'm actually quite excited to see how this card will improve our odds against both Doomsday and Breakfast, which are both very large portions of the meta. So I'm excited about that. Notable here, of course, is Echo of Aeon. So Echo is something that obviously we can get through Burning Wish, and at this point I have played enough Magic without any, like, when you only have Tendrils, Pier, and a Feed the Swarm to get with your Burning Wish, it's a very unique feeling. And basically, Burning Wish plays a certain role, and there are spots where, when drawn early, especially when coupled with Tendrils, it's serious dead weight. And especially with the nature of Infernal Tutor, sometimes you just can't get Hellbent for Infernal Tutor because of your Burning Wish. And I've had spots where I just cast Burning Wish and choose no, just to literally go down a card to make my Infernal Tutor reasonable. That's not necessarily a place I want to be. Now, will Echo entirely fix that? Entirely? No. Oftentimes, though, yes. The fact that we can, if our Ad Nauseam is discarded or Force of Willed, we do have access to a shuffle effect that is not just a shuffle effect, but also an engine, a very powerful tool, right? It also allows us to have game when we're on super low resources. 2 mana, Lion's Eye Diamond. Normally, you don't have a singleton draw that will get you there. You're hoping you have multiple draws across multiple turns that can result in winning, but nothing that can win on the spot. And Burning Wish is something that can win on the spot in a spot like that, or at least put you back in the game. So it's nice to have. We have played many, many matchups with this card. I know many who still play with it, swear by it, and won't come off of it, and I do not blame them at all. It's a very powerful card for this deck, even. I've played it in the main deck. It is powerful in the main deck. Obviously, it's not great with Ad Nauseam, but with such a low CMC, it is certainly reasonable. The Epic Storm did it for literal years to much success, and I don't blame them either. But moving on from Echo, we'll go to the other kind of action piece that we can get with Burning Wish. Now, when you're running one Burning Wish, usually the first tendency is for people to overboard, to start playing all these utility cards and this and that. You gotta realize you have one. The vast majority of the time, the largest reason we are running this one Burning Wish is to make our black tutors able to get Peer into the Abyss and not putting a 7-drop in our deck for Ad Nauseam. So when we just have outrageous amounts of mana and one I win button, maybe our life total is 2, literal 2 health points, or maybe we just have that much mana and want to be able to go for it. Having access to Peer is really nice. Also, having access to Tendrils so that if Tendrils is discarded, or Surgical, or Meddling Mage is, well, that wouldn't do it, but you know what I mean. It gives us, we're able to have 2 win cons, and one of them costs 2 for Ad Nauseam instead of 4, so we don't have to run 2 Tendrils, which is pretty clunky in and of itself. And we have access to Peer, which we mentioned. However, like I had initially said, it's easy to accidentally put too much on the board, but not to say it is never incorrect to put more than just Tendrils and Peer. I, of course, have Feed the Swarm. This is primarily 4th Fatal Push. It is incidental that we can get it with Burning Wish. Not entirely incidental, right? It is a cost that you're playing Feed the Swarm instead of Fatal Push. In most cases, it's a worse card, but it varies a number of things for you. There's the incidental nature we talked about, but it also costs 2 instead of 1 for Chalice considerations. It's a sorcery instead of an instant for emissary considerations. If they have protection from instants or sorceries, you can still, well, they would name sorcery and then push can't kill emissary. So I guess that's not as relevant, but it varies mana cost. It varies. I can imagine there's spots where card type could matter. I just can't think of them off the cuff right now. And also, of course, it kills enchantments, so it means we don't just have one answer to Deafening Silence. So if they have multiples in play, we are capable of killing two of them. Especially now that we have Echo, since we can shuffle, that is multiplied. And for me, Relay, probably the largest case for Relay is the spot in which this is a dead card in our hand, and it just rots in our hand until we can finally, it takes a lot to be able to, like, sometimes this card is just that bad in our hand. So being able to cast it, putting it on the stack, and getting a useful card that we can then convert into other cards, I think it's a nice place to be. I might consider like Deadly Dispute, but unfortunately that's an instant, right? You could run Night's Whisper, but often enough you'll have Lion's Eye Diamond, and sometimes it will just be literally the card that you actually want in your sideboard. We're testing it. I've tested it before on the board, it's been fine. I've tested it in the main deck, it's been fine there as well. But like I said, today we're just going to try a bunch of different things and see how they all feel. Sometimes it's nice to just have access to all of them so that despite the scenario, you can often wiggle yourself out of it, right? Expedition Map, this is a card that has been in and out of the sideboard of this deck. I absolutely love it. People always ask, what is the Expedition Map for? When do you need it? And the most simple answer is when you don't want one saga, you want two. First off, it increases redundancy for Urza Saga so that you effectively have 5 in your deck. But it also means when you use Urza Saga, at the end of your Urza Saga, if you want it, you can have another Urza Saga. And that is actually just huge. In fact, it is the only card that I can definitively say has been able to effectively combat the brutality, we'll say, of Meltdown. So this is a card that allows, even if you know your opponent has Meltdown and they're waiting for the timing, when should I cast this Meltdown? Well, they have constructs beating them up. So there is a clock, and they do have to cast it eventually. And one of the best ways to beat Meltdown is having multiple sagas, so that you can stagger your sagas so that if they don't Meltdown, they're dead. And then you have more saga coming. So, in the event that we can manage to get a saga to fruition, we can then re-saga and effectively overload Meltdown over the course of multiple turns, which is really where you want to be. So I do love the card. There are all sorts of spots where you want the card in your deck and you just want to have more sagas. When saga's good, map is good. Simple as that. Haywire Might's been a banger, obviously. Pithing Needle. So this is also a card that has just been too powerful. Absolutely too powerful. It's really good against Cephalid Breakfast. It's incidentally good against Show and Tell. This is not necessarily for that matchup. It's mostly for 8-Cast and Breakfast, which are two of the most popular decks right now. I believe those were the two next most popular decks, aside from Delver, in Baltimore and just across the board. And Needle is very good against both of those decks. It's really important that we have Needle for Emery. Emery is a beating. Sometimes they wind up in spots where they have Emery and they have Saga, which means they can get Haywire Might, which means you need to name Haywire Might, which turns off your own Haywire Might. So it gets messy. But I've lost so many games to Emery, where discard is fine, except for the fact that they have Emery, so it's not fine. So they're just recasting their Chalice, and we're just losing to it. Or if we get our Saga down first, we can Saga, we can make constructs, and then at the end of it, Needle naming Saga and just beat them up because we have a few constructs and they were only able to make one or none. So Needle has been absolutely great. I am tempted to retest Hope of Gearper, but not today. I don't have it in me today. I was going to test a playset of them, or at least 3, and see how that does against Delver, but again, it still gets wrecked by Meltdown. And the fact that they're legendary is actually a problem. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to test all of these utility things, all of these cards that I have used in the past that I have missed dearly as they haven't been in the list or have taken multiple hiatus or hiati? How would you say that? That's ridiculous. Hiati. But We get to play it all. We're just gonna play all of them. I'm curious to see how Surgical plays out. I'm excited for it. Um, and I'm pumped. I don't know about you, but I am ready to play some Magic. I'll see you in round one. Okay, here we are, round one against Cracked LED. Love it. And we've opened up 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 turn one. Do we go for it? It's a pretty strong hand otherwise. It's not like it's super slow. Like, we don't have discard. We have a really strong Saga hand. Think we should just take our turn one. Yeah, let's take our turn one. Play Chrome Mox, play Opal, cast Dark Ritual, play Saga. Tap the Saga, hold priority, cast IT, make 5 mana. Cast Ad Nauseam. We're in there. Right. It's looking like a kill. Looking pretty good. Let's see if we can have a peek. Are they gonna let me? Nope. Trying to get some info ASAP, but couldn't. Okay, we don't really know what's going on. Given our current sideboard configuration, is there anything that I would want to do in the blind? They mulled. They had no interaction. Can't read too far into that. These are too narrow. Haywire might be worth it. These are too narrow. Surgical is a consideration. Because with this much discard, even if it's not a surgical matchup, you can wind up in spots where it's just good. Like, there's plenty of matchups where it's reasonable, where, like, I don't think I'd prefer it, but I don't really hate having it. So I'm tempted to bring some in. Let's trim a Cabal Therapy on a Bauble. I'll play Haywire Might as well. Might be a little too much, but let's try it. I'm gonna keep this. I know it only has a redraw, but we're on the draw. Okay, it looks like a blue deck. And we just have so much explosive mana, so this is high potential for a turn one. Protected even? 2, 4, 5, 8. Yeah, if we draw Infernal Tutor, we have a turn one protected. It did not, but it is another redraw. So we can go Bobble, Bobble. I don't know if it's worth playing Opal. Probably. Play around Days, I suppose. Let's have a look-see. Alright, so we're playing against Breakfast. I'm glad we brought in 2 Surgicals. Let's go Duress. Okay. Sucks I can't take both. And I'll pass it over. Another Ritual. We have a lot of mana. A Delta and pass. So no new information for us. And draw Infernal Tutor. Discard? Oh my god. Well, we're playing around soft counter magic. That's for sure. I don't even think we have to use these lines of diamonds. 2, 4, 6, 8. That is correct. Do we have a tutor chain? At this point, I think the answer is yes. They have so many things they could find here. 7, 8, 9, 10. 2, 4, 6, 10 mana we need. Is 6, 10, 12. So we have enough for a straight up tutor chain, even through Spell Pierce. We're placing a Fluster. Whereas, funny enough, Ad Nauseam plays around Fluster. Like, we would cast it, Storm would be 7, 8. No, it doesn't. It misses by 1. It's better against, like, Pierce plus Daze, which I don't think they have. Better against Orange Chant. Yeah. Could also Peer. 5, 6. You'd only have to use 1 Lion's Day Diamond. I'm gonna Ad Naus, though. We're just in. They just didn't find anything. Alright then. And they're off it. This matchup, although we didn't get to really showcase it here because we didn't know what we were playing against, but this matchup feels really, really good with 3 Surgicals in our board. So I do like that. Alright, we're 1-0. I'll see you in round 2. Here we are in round 2, and I don't know how it happened, but I somehow did not record round 2. So we're just going to do a walkthrough and commentary and that sort of thing. Alright, so we're playing against Artisan, and it looks like we won the die roll. And we wind up keeping this hand, of course, starting off with Duress, playing against Doomsday, and we take the Doomsday. So a little bit awkward that this hand doesn't have a Lion's Eye Diamond and has 3 lands for this Infernal Tutor. So my only worry with this hand, or not only, but primary worry, is that we're unable to get Hellbent. And of course they go for Personal Tutor. We get Doomsday. We draw Chrome Mox, which typically helps you get Hellbent, but not for lands. Not in printable ones, at least. So as expected, they go ahead and cast Doomsday. We have 3 cards. One's a Personal Tutor, I think, and I think one's a land, and then there's an unknown. So they pass it over, and unfortunately we draw another land, so we are, as we had hoped we wouldn't be, stuck with this Infernal Tutor. And of course they do finish this off. And that's game 1. So on to game 2. We are of course on the play, and we have an opener with Duress into Surgical with a redraw. So a bit unconventional, but exciting. And they open up on a Leyline after a Multa 3. So a very strange game. I've never seen someone on Leyline out of Doomsday. Maybe it's some new hot tech, I'm not sure, but never seen it. So our out to Leyline is, of course, making constructs, which we've drawn into a saga. So that's nice. Or we do a Burning Wish that can get Feed the Swarm. So we play out Saga and Wishclaw. They ponder, and we draw Burning Wish. So now we can go Ritual, cast Burning Wish, get and cast Feed the Swarm, duress them. This is such a dirty turn. Take their Doomsday. And then I passed. I was considering doing it in the draw step, but if they draw Brainstorm or Force or something, just figure, you know what, let's just take it. So we take the Doomsday, and they wind up scooping. So that's game 2. That was an insane turn. We go on to game 3. Don't look at my medium constructed rating, okay? I brew a lot, okay? Leave me alone. So we open up a very well-rounded hand. If they had Leyline, we have Haywire Might, we have Tutors, we have Mana, we have Discard. So not looking so shabby here. They do Brainstorm, which was disappointing. We figured as much. We had options here. We could have waited and held. Could have played Wishclaw into Daze, which they don't play much of anyways. Could have played Ancient Tomb to play around Daze. I don't think that's worth it. But I just went with Thoughtseize, and they have all lands. And presumably a Doomsday on top, which they do. And they cast it, but then we have Lethal. We have Lethal right here. We don't even need anything else. We have 2, 4, 6 mana, and Wishclaw goes mana neutral with Lion's Eye Diamond, which allows us to Infernal Tutor for Tendrils, and it winds up being exact. So we go ahead and do that. Ritual, play out Wishclaw, Lion's Eye Diamond, play Lion's Eye Diamond, play IT, crack LED, get Tendrils, and get them with 5 drills. GG's. So that was that match. We dismantled Doomsday. And that puts us at 2-0. On to the next round. See you there. Alright, here we are, round 3 against Name Not Important. We have won the die roll. I think we've won them all. It's pretty good. Alright, this hand, I know it only has a redraw for action, but it has double discard. And second discard is Cabal Therapy, which means we have the potential to like triple discard them or even more. And we know the top of their deck too. So just really powerful opener that admittedly does need to draw into action, but considering the amount of mana we have, if we do draw action, it's going to be quite good. Has mulliganed, which makes this discard-centric hand even better. So we're gonna... I wouldn't mind opening with just Swamp Duress, but I do want to use this Bobble. And I wouldn't mind just bobbling Swamp Duress, but then I'll have to play out LED, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So we're going to open with this stuff, make our black, use our Bobble. Top is Ponder. Cast Duress. Ooh, baby. So now we can take Brainstorm, name Force Will, are left with Daze and Ponder. Or we can take Daze, name Force of Will. I'll take Brainstorm. If they want to lose Force of Will plus Daze, that's fine too. Well, they let it go. Boom. Got him pretty good there. I guess I'll play this out. There's not much reason not to. Rebobble. For a hand that just got discarded that hard, it's actually not too bad. Especially after a mulligan. Ponder Shuffle, so that's good. Alright, not the worst. I guess if they're on Grixis, they could have Thoughtseize, so I won't bobble yet. A lot of people are on Grixis these days, thanks to Orcish Bowmaster. Alright, drawing another land. That's good for us. Tarn Delver. Did I miss something here? Oh, I don't think I X'd out the first volcanic that they played. Oh, just straight up ad nauseum. Okay. That'll do. I'll use the LED. Go ahead and daze me. Or don't. It doesn't matter. And we're going. We have LED, we have Rituals, we have Petals, we have Infernal Tutor. Our opponent is dead. We have a Mishra's Bauble. They might let us use it. We might see a black card. Probably won't. Mystic Sanctuary. Okay, that's gotta mean not Grixis, right? Get rid of that Daze. Why not? Play my stuff. Play all my eggs. My Cheerios. Yeah, no. Make a red. Why not? Wishclaw. Get him with 15 drills, baby. Easy game. Easy game, easy game. Alright, Delverino. So, map, I want. The rest is questionable. Surgical could be good, but I think it's dicey. Let's trim a bauble, and let's go. You know what I'm thinking? The Nettle Cyst testing, it could be good as a one-of. Like, Patchwork Automaton you need 4, because you need it, like, initially, and then play artifacts after it. But Nettle Cyst, the later you draw it, the bigger it is. Seems it's pretty good. 1 mana shy of a turn 1, Dark Ritual away from a turn 1 protected, or LED, or Ancient Tomb. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 10 draws. It's like 18 to 19% that we have a turn 1 protected. Oh, baby, that's one of them. That is definitely one of them. Play these suckers out. So now we have 3, 4, 7, 8. Exactly enough. They have double interaction, we're in trouble. They do not. They have a good hand. They're ballsy enough to not turn 1 Thoughtseize. That was a mistake. Now you're dead. 3, 4, 7, 6, 7, 8. Still too shy of just going for lethal. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's go for the Adnaz. A little turn 1 protected for you. That's always nice. Little turn 1 protected. I think. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're good. We doing aight. Just cruising through this league. Absolutely cruising. Right, for Wishclaw. Activate. 3, 4, 5. Just want to get 19 drills because they have 19. And Mega Black. Turn 1 protected. Hell yeah. We are 3-0. See you in round 4. Okay, here we are in round 4. We are undefeated against Rose Island. We are on the draw, and we've opened up a 4-lander. However, it's got a redraw, it's got discard, and it's got a saga. I think I'm going to keep. This deck does better, but this hand is very stable. And we do have a turn 1 saga if we want it. 1 artifact away from turn 1 saga plus discard. Looks like a blue deck. Cobalt Therapy. I think I'd rather go with the double discard than with knowing the top of their deck as well. Let's go Vault, Bauble, Opal. Make a black. They might fetch and Brainstorm or something, so I don't think I want to Bauble yet. Let's Thoughtseize. Oh, mama. I feel like this just happened last game. Oh, that's nice. They didn't Brainstorm. That's insane to me. Why would you not Brainstorm? Yeah. They can pitch their Thoracle and force a will, which they probably should. I would imagine they're running 2. They did not. Interesting. Okay. Goodbye, Force of Wills. Pretty good. A Strix, sure. Annoying, but I think it will be fine. Kill him, Strix. Draw. Duress. LED. Let's go Saga. Duress you. I didn't draw anything. Maybe I was supposed to wait on that one, actually. If they drew Doomsday, there's a good chance they'll be able to cast it. And I think there's a reasonable odds that we find discard in addition to a kill. Also, we have Cabal Therapy if we need it. So if we draw Tutor, we can force check. And they only have 1 card right now. Ooh. So we have a Pier next turn. As long as we don't draw Tendrils. And with 2 cards, they have no way of winning. And 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we're going to play through days. So I think we just have this straight up locked up. They attacked with Baleful Strix. I think because they intend on chumping so that they can utilize their Thoracle in a Murktide. Or that. It's funny. Alrighty. And we drew LED. That is crazy. Wow. It's insane. Let's play Swamp. Let's play LED. Let's Cabal Therapy. I mean, I'd say Mindbreak Trap is literally the only card that we lose to here. I know it's game 1, but we don't care about days. So, I'm just going to name it. There's no use naming days there. So it just doesn't matter. I guess I'll leave 1 so that we can discard for Infernal Tutor. And then we'll peer directly into the Abyss. Let's look at the top, get some more info. Doomsday was on top. That's funny. Play everything out. Let's see, do I have a Wishclaw? They'll probably scoop to that. Get that one in there. Activate. And kill them. Damn. That was hot. Alright, Doomsday again. These are feeling very good. I don't think... I mean, that last time was the first time I've ever been leylined out of Doomsday. I don't know if it's some like hot new tech or something, but I'm not going to play the Haywire Might. Coincidentally enough, we actually just won anyways, thanks to Feed the Swarm. Alright, I think we were trimming on a Cabal Therapy and Bobble 2. That's fine. Yeah, Sand is great. It's got a bunch of mana, discard, and a kill. Hoping to not get Thoughtseize theirself. We are. So I think they're priced into taking Wishclaw. I guess they might take Thoughtseize, depending on the context of their hand. But they are in trouble. Okay. Let's play some stuff out. Okay. And Thoughtseize. Right back at ya. Force, Surgical, Ritual, Strix. I don't care too much about Surgical. I'm probably going to have to get through this Force, so I'm going to take that. And they're going to play Strix. And hopefully we draw Infernal Tutor. 3, 6, 7, 8. Oh my god, you gotta be kidding. What are the odds, man? They're pretty low. They're 3 out of 52. That's 6%. Outrageous. It's actually surprising to me how how often people don't do this. Like, they just fire it off in the main phase. Or the classic, like, I'm gonna get you in the upkeep. Because I heard that taking game actions in my opponent's upkeep is the right thing to do. Just blanketly. Alright, I predict we're still gonna win this game. No shuffle on Ponder. Looks like they're gonna reponder. Strix. Murktide, yep. Tutor? Okay. So now we have 2, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11. So Infernal Tutor is a peer. Actually, it's probably just a tutor chain at this point. 8, we technically have 1 more. Yikes. 1 more turn. 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana outside of Ancient Tomb. That's still enough to tutor chain, especially now, but now we're probably dead on the spot. Oh, that just makes Murktide bigger? Yeah. Oh, come on, Moto. I wanted to see it. Alright, alright, alright. I think we're still very much favored. These surgicals, I think, are going to be really good. Maybe on the play I want to bring back the 10th discard spell. And just trim, like, I don't know, Opal's probably one of the more inconsistent cards. Especially when we trimmed a couple baubles. Okay. Yeah, I'm down for this. LED, Opal, Vault, Wishclaw. Did not get forced. All you, Chief. All you. They shuffled immediately. Huh. That's interesting. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's so tempting to surgical. Just lets us know if they have nothing, right? I almost want to pay for it, but I think it's still correct to pay the mana. I mean, life. So close. Let's take a look. Whoa. Whoa. Well, now we know all they got is days. They had 3 Veils in their deck, too. 2, 4, 7. It's go time, baby. We play around days. Pernicious Deed. Wow, we were entering a world of pain shortly. Can we actually get LED, copy LED, but then we're 1 shy. We need 5 to make that play. Yep. But we can get 1 more LED. Or we can just leave Wishclaw on board. I think it's better to get the mana. Or no, we can't leave Wishclaw on board. We just lose to the days. We will pay. We will get Lines of Diamond. Play Lines of Diamond. Make black. Activate. We're at 16, so this is not guaranteed by any means. But we're also not dead if we have to pass. Are they scooping? Nope. Alright, come on, deck. Don't be mean to me, deck. You're being kind of mean. Alright, alright. We have a pedal, opal. Need. Okay, that does it. That does it. Alright, deck, I hear you. I hear you. I heard you. The opponent is dead. See the top of their deck. It was a Force of Will. Well, their hand was going to be ridiculous if we had to pass the turn. They had Thoughtseize, they had Pernicious Deed incoming, they had a couple Ponders, Force of Will on top. Insane. Absolutely insane. But instead, they're dead. And we are 4-0. We are cruising through this league, no problem. On to the final round, the trophy match. See you there. Okay, here we are in the final round. We have lost the die roll. We're playing for a trophy here. We have a hand that is a bit dicey. I'm going to have to mulligan this one. Just a little too awkward. This hand's better. We keep and probably bottom Chrome Mox. It could make for a decent, like, depending on what we draw, I could discard into Saga. If we draw any black card, we can imprint it, Duress, Vault, Pedal, IT for Saga, and then next turn we have a Saga plus our Vault and Chrome Mox. Probably better to just imprint Chrome Mox, though. Going to 6 and keeping Chrome Mox feels a lot like a 5. Okay. Okay with Island. They're also on 6. It's a lot of bobble. Let's take a peek. Yeah, Shadow, okay. Starting on basic Island. Interesting. Do I just hold Duress? I just hold Duress, huh? Yeah, we're likely to move into more discard. I'm just gonna look at my own, but I'm not sure that's necessary. Well, yeah, you know what? Let's do that. City of Traders incoming. Guess there's no harm in playing Pedal. Yeah, I assumed that was coming. But now we can look at what they hide on top. You can even see what they hide 2 cards down, but it's likely that it's a card that they don't want, and they're gonna shuffle. They're just gonna put a Force Will on top. They know we're not going with 2 cards in hand. Be interesting if they daze. Yeah, it's entirely possible this just whiffs. We have City of Traders coming. I'm still gonna pay. Yep. Alright, we're getting wastelanded. I mean, we kind of saw that coming, right? I guess we'll play around Thoughtseize at this last bauble. Those are good. And it is, in fact, a Force of Will. They didn't wasteland? Weird. We drew Duress. It's crazy. Maybe I shouldn't have played that yet. Well, either way, whatever they hit, it's gonna hurt. And either way, we gotta take this Force of Will. Super close. Their hand is super awkward, though. They're at 20. They have 2 Death Shadow. They have no second blue source. They not wastelanding? What's happening? Okay. Alright, any artifact here, right? I guess no, we need to net a mana. I don't know if I'm supposed to use Bobble or not. We probably are supposed to use Bobble. Just because we have Bobble in our deck. Although we have 3 in our graveyard. There's not that many in our deck. I think I'm still supposed to Bobble. Ooh, we're getting punished. We're getting punished hard. Ugh. Maybe you're not supposed to Bobble there. We really have to look at our draws to figure that one out. Or look at our deck. They're gonna start reducing their life total, which is good. Probably play Murktide here, though. Yeah. Alright, so they're keeping their life total high. Come on, baby. Come on. Yikes. Not do anything for me. Play it, we go to 14. It goes to 2, we go to 8. It pops off. We have 4, 5, 8, 9, 10. Potentially more mana after a couple of draws. I think I'm supposed to play it. I'm playing it. So we might wind up with a Pier. 14. They have these awkward Death Shadows. We have all this awkward mana. Probably play out Lion's Eye Diamond, huh? Could get Spell Pierced. I'm just gonna pass. It's a lot of mana. We have a Pier coming up. We want to draw discard. Definitely want to draw some discard. So we got 8. They have 5 cards. 2 of them are Death Shadows. We drew discard. Yes, we did. Alright, do we just have lethal? I don't want Dark Ritual to just get countered. Like, can we get away with a Chrome Mox here? 1 Chrome Mox would be 2, 3, 6, 10 mana, so we can't Pier with that. Not gonna have enough to Tutor Chain. So yeah, no, we gotta get LED. Hope Ritual doesn't get countered. They could have Minor Misstep. They have Force and they used it there. Okay. Well, 6, 7, 8, 9. Brazen Borrower. That's brutal. Alright, they got us. Yeah, I mean, you could certainly argue that I wasn't supposed to use that Bobble. Like, a lot of times you're not supposed to just hold on to it. It's usually more true when any land will do, but we specifically needed a black source in the event that we used Bobble or a Lion's Eye Diamond. But it's like, a lot of times the reason you want to use the Bobble is because you have a bunch more Bobbles in your deck, and if you hold on to the Bobble, and your Bobble is 2 cards down, then you may very well just get wrecked. Plus, when any land will do, then you just want 2 draws anyways. Like, when losing Metalcraft is just simply losing 1 mana, rather than losing your only black source, that was our only black source, so if I did some math, I probably wasn't supposed to do that. Okay, so Death Shadow, we want the map. Surgical is interesting, but I don't think we want it. I think we just want map. We'll cut one of the baubles. We gotta watch out for Powder Keg. But that one was pretty much on me. Alright, we're on the play. Ugh, his hand is slightly too awkward. Mulligan. His hand is also awkward, but I'm gonna keep. Bottom Burning Wish, although Burning Wish is a better card now that we have more sideboard tech. Still probably don't want it though. They mulligan to 5. Okay. So we're on 6, they're on 5. I don't even know if I want to use this ball. Well, yeah, I'm gonna. If I draw a discard, I'll want to use it. If I draw a Saga, I'll probably want to play it. Tendrils is not good. I don't think I want to Wish Claw. I think I'd rather play around Daze and Spell Pierce. See what they got going on. Daze, okay. Got a Wasteland. Probably save it for Saga. Another Bauble. And an LED. Let's go Ancient Tomb. Bauble. Obviously, we have a line that goes for it here, but I don't think we want that. It's possible I should have played Wishclaw, then played IT to copy Bauble. It's also a patient play of just like leaving Baubles out there and hoping to get them with the natural tendrils, but they have discard. So I think I'm just playing Wishclaw around their days. And then just proactively using Bobble to get to discard so that we can kill them soon. I don't want to play LED into Powder Keg or Ratchet Bomb. Have Luxie. Thoughtseize, that's obnoxious. Yep, they get our LED. Every now and then you get someone who takes tendrils and then surgicals it and thinks they got you. Especially since they have Wasteland. They might think they have Saga covered and then psych themselves out. That would be nice. Tanking a little bit. I forgot to say GLHF. Bad manner. If you're watching this OP, I'm sorry. Good luck, have fun. Although you're currently beating me, so please have a little bit less luck. I mean, I don't know what's in their hand, but from this point of view, it's LED. But again, they might have a surgical and they might be thinking, do I just win the game if I surgical tendrils? We did hit LED. And they're going to waste me. They land. They have days plus 3 unknowns. You draw Thoughtseize, not bad. Swamp is also not bad, so this is looking like a surgical. They have a stop and our draw step. They're going to pay 2, surgical, and pay for it. That's funny. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty good. I will admit. It's super tempting to Thoughtseize ourselves and take tendrils so that we can work towards a saga with this IT. Or even working towards an ad nauseum. Our kill has to use Burning Wish, and we have no LED. I know Thoughtseize myself. We know they have a daze, so I'm not going to run into that. But I'm at this point hoping to draw like a bobble or just some sort of 0 so that I can IT4 and play Saga. They could have double days. Opal would be nice. That's a bobble. I like that. Alright. Is that the play? I think it is. I only have 3 cards. One of them's daze. I gotta hope they don't have a board wipe. Or just a wasteland. No wasteland. Okay. Discard. Another saga. That's very good. Well, let's play that bad boy. Get in there. Brainstorm. That's scary. There's one scary ass card at this point. Wasteland. Okay. A little bit late on the wasteland, but it's still one of the better things they could have found. Interesting to see what they hit here. They're gonna let me untap. And hit that one. Okay. That means I get an expedition map. They're gonna dress me down. Thoughtseize is very good. I could ritual here. Otherwise I can't activate map and Thoughtseize. Not even sure if I want to attack yet because of Death Shadows. Find out from the Thoughtseize. Yeah, I want to be able to activate map and Thoughtseize. So I want to play Saga this turn. Figured they were letting that go. Here comes map, baby. Thoughtseize. Dress down and coming. Pretty sure we got dress down and coming. Yep. Bowmaster. God damn it. They have the Wasteland Brazenbar. How do they just have the perfect... Wow. Yikes, man. Jeez. So we gotta work towards ad nauseum somehow. This land is gonna get wastelanded. Do we have to take Bowmaster? Daze is gonna be obnoxious as well. Honestly, I think we have to take Brazen Borrower. That is super frustrating, though. Like, our opponent mulled to 5, and they've just had unbelievable, an unbelievable sequence of cards. I mean, it was probably medium until they hit that Brainstorm, which is just like, oh, fix everything. That's Brainstorm for you. Right, so we are hoping for Dark Rituals. They drew Murktide. Again with the perfects. Like, oh, you need some time? No. No, you don't get time. Here's Murktide. No time for you. Alright, without LED, Wishclaw only represents 1 mana. So we currently have 4 mana. We need 7. Echo is not really a thing because of Bowmaster and because of no lines of diamond. Oh, cool. Brutal, dude. Brutal. You're not meant to win this one. Definitely not meant to win it. Dark Ritual is just insult to injury. We don't actually have outs at this point. Yikes. That was comically unfortunate. But Death Shadow is a very good deck, high disruption, and sometimes they just have it all. Let's go back to the list and talk about some things. So, main deck, as you can see, runs super smooth, super hot. Chrome Mox was great. I mean, there weren't like a ton of spots where it was good or bad. There weren't like really all that many like busted openers because of Chrome Mox. At the same time, we didn't like overload on the card or draw it way too much. It was fine. Everything ran relatively smooth. We didn't really have a spot where we could echo, which is okay. That's going to be the way oftentimes. Same thing with Relay. We almost considered getting it once. Map was great. We already knew that. Surgical felt really good. Making use of this card a lot more than Leyline. I mean, in Moto Leagues, you may very well still play against Reanimator a lot, so I think Leyline would be fine. But I don't like meta for small metas. I just make what I think would be the most competitive deck given the most competitive setting. I'm looking for a deck for the winners tables. And as you saw there, we just breezed through Doomsday, Breakfast, Delver, Doomsday, and then we lost to just like some nut draws from Death Shadow. But you could argue that I lost it by using that bauble in game one. We would have easily won game one, and it would have been a different match. So one little decision like that can certainly foil an entire performance. So I can't really, complain too much there, despite the fact that I did complain quite a bit. I do apologize for that. But yeah, I think moving forward, Surgical is going to just be more useful and give us a lot of points in a lot of the very common matchups. So I'm still looking for ways to improve tempo. I think so far the only like tried and true thing is actually Expedition map. Just being able to get more Saga, more lands in general. I mean, the answer could be more lands in the sideboard and just bring them in against tempo. Like we could play Inventor's Fair, gains life, land drop. Its action in the long run can be found with Expedition map. I talk about this all the time. The 19 mana dream. The dream. What's that dream, you say? Playing map, 1 mana, activating map, +2 is 3 mana, getting Inventor's Fair, activating Inventor's Fair, that's 4 + 3, that's 7 mana, to get Wishclaw, playing and activating is another 3, right? Total of 10 mana, which gets Burning Wish. It's 12 mana, which gets Peer, 19 mana. Yep, you heard it here. Map is a tutor for Peer. All you need is 19 mana, no problem. More feasible with Burgi. So another idea that you could toy with is playing more Tendrils against tempo and just being very patient with your hand, even potentially being patient with Bobble. So multiple Tendrils and lots of Bobble, you can naturally kill them pretty easily. You go up to 7 cards, you play a Bobble, you can wind up with a few Bobbles in play and 7 cards, and then you crack all the Bobbles and put, 10, 11, 12 cards in your hand, and naturally Tendrils them out. Start casting discard spells, get reactions, and then kill them. So that is an avenue that I haven't yet explored, but that I might. Other than that, I don't think there's a ton left to say. So if you want to, join the conversation per se and jump in with the final fine-tuning of Black Saga Storm, you can comment on this video. You can go to Discord. We have a Storm Discord. We have a section, obviously, for Black Saga Storm. I have a Patreon, right, where you'll see sideboard guides, lists, articles, early access to videos, that sort of thing, as well as a private Discord where we can really get down to the nitty-gritty, behind-the-scenes stuff for this deck. So reach out. This is what we love to do, and the deck is super hot right now, so there's a large handful of us that are extremely active, currently trying to brainstorm the final ideas for the deck. So join us, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.